it going this evening, guys?
So far, so good.
Going
Can't complain.
Yeah. So I didn't start with my normal intro. That's what threw Twitless. He's been on before, and normally I have a spiel where I say it's another Thursday. It's time for another episode of the Mattriachy. I am your host, Matt Reese, and I am joined today in second chair, guest hosting, by the inimitable Twitless.
What's up?
Yeah. And our special guest of honor, the one who answers all of the questions, is Raven Munroe, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Hello.
All right. I got it right. So how are we all doing on this fine evening today?
Oh.
Wait, didn't you just ask that question?
I did, but I want you to elaborate on it now that I interrupted you. See, I threw the flow up there, and now I'm just making it awkward for everyone. But Twitless, what have you been doing with this week since because I haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah, I know. It's been like a whole 6 days.
Yeah, it has been. So what have you been up to these days, these wild days?
Well, I sent my my comic, The Adventures of a Mega Girl issue 1 to the printer. We're going to see how that debacle turns out.
Exciting.
Wow. That's pretty exciting. I don't have anything nearly so exciting that I have been doing. I've just been coloring old webcomics. That's what I've been up to today. Yeah.
That's fun.
Fair dude.
Yeah, so you don't know this, Raven, but Twitless knows because I've talked about it with him. But I had my buddy Chris and I started this webcomic back in 2005. 2006 is actually our first publication date. And with it, we were just we did it for years and years and years, and we've had different art changes and all kinds of stuff going on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I've recently begun republishing it over on Webtoons, and I'm coloring the archives as I go. And I thought that would be something that I could do just easy peasy, just kind of fill in the time between hours with, and it's a really laborious process.
Yeah. Coloring is a labor of love, I tell you.
Oh man! Of course, now you actually get paid to color, right?
I am so fortunate. I am living the dream of every 3-year-old with a box of crayons. I swear.
Well, wait a second. I seem to remember somebody mentioning that crayons and you are a bad combination. Is that?
Who told you my secret? Darn it!
I don't know, but he falsely claims to be a ginger. I know that much.
I know this fellow in which we speak.
I think you may have been acquainted. But no, of course,
I might know him.
You might. You've been doing. Speaking of those who shall not be named, but you have been doing the colors for Rags, right?
Yes. I've been so fortunate.
Probably, I'll say it's probably my favorite. Actually, it's my second favorite zombie book. I have to be completely honest. That is only my second favorite zombie book. Yeah.
Hey, that's
my
still
first
pretty
favorite
good.
Yeah. Well, of the two zombie books I like, that's one of them. Actually, I got to take that back. Because I have a vested interest in a third zombie book that I think is really good, but I don't know if I can call it my favorite because I'm vested in it.
All right.
So, Dan Connor's My Gal the Zombie. I just absolutely love that comic. It's an all ages comedy. It's great stuff. And then there's Rags, which is great. And then there is Z-Bites by Chris Lore, but that's a property he brought that over to our little comic company. So
nice.
It's part of my continuity. And I don't know that I can be objective about it. So
hey, that's completely fair. I hear you.
Yeah. So we're actually going to be doing a special edition of that book this year, and it's a whole thing. But anyhow,
exciting. Man, it sounds like you got some great stuff lined up for this year.
Well, hopefully we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. But now, how did you get involved? Because you weren't coloring Rags to begin with. right?
No. Someone beat me to it. No, I'm just kidding. There was a really talented colorist on beforehand, and miscommunications, things happened. They were based in France, and they had some things happen, and the position became available. And I'd been bugging Mr. Brian Ball for a long time, and I was like, "Sir, if there's anything I can do to help, I would love to be of assistance." And he just kept going. So I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And as you do,
I can 100%. I'm saying I can 100% hear him say that too.
Yep. He's like, not yet. And I was like, fair. So I started my own comic, Machi the Witch, and after I had experience coloring two full comics and was available, he was like, "Hey, you know what? You want to try it out?" And I was like, "Oh, please! It's not like I've been waiting for this."
Pestering you incessantly, camping outside of your house.
Just building color palettes, studying colors. But yeah, so we did a couple of sample pages, and he liked them, and he had me on ever since, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
So what book did you come in on?
I've learned so much about flatting, coloring, rendering, the whole shebang. It's been a great experience.
We got a little roboting there.
Yes, and then she died completely.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so hopefully she'll come back. The link's still good, so we'll have to see how that goes. Hello to Nick in the chat. How are you going, man?
What's up?
Yep. That's right. And we had somebody else join us just to watch our guest disappear, it looks like. So she'll be back. I'm sure of it. I believe it's true. I have to believe it deep in my heart. Okay, I got to come up with something to say.
Yep. Dead air.
There we go. It's Gilead Gallivant puts F in the chat to show the support for the thing. I feel that, man. I feel that. So, oh hey Star, how's it going? There's a Star Storyteller is here as well. So people are rolling in, getting shared around on Twitter there. And I saw that happening, so that might be part of the up and tick. And I don't have, man, all of my questions were for the process. So have you, by chance, Twitless?
Yep.
I have not heard her come back yet. Have you gotten a chance to read Machi the Lazy Witch at all?
I actually bought it today because it was $1.
Yeah, right.
And Nicholas, you can come on and show your face if you want to, get into a face off. But no, I bought it for $1 and I read it because I wanted to be, I didn't want to just be like, "Hello, random person."
Oh, also I just noticed.
Also, it was $1.
Yeah, right.
Which is a perfect price for a comic book.
It really is a great price for a digital comic. And I actually read both of the volumes earlier this week. I picked them up over the holiday, but I did not actually get them yet. I had not taken the time to read them yet, so I did that. But I hadn't yet. So I'm actually I have all kinds of questions. Let's see. Nick says everyone. Nick says everyone loves my face. Okay.
I do.
Star is asking for the links, so let me check it out. It's on Gumroad.
Yeah. It's about witches. That was the part that came through the most to me. It's very colorful book.
It is very colorful. The thing that I love. Oh, it looks like she's back. What the heck? Okay. the thing that I liked about it most was probably the world building. But let's see if we can get Raven back on here. Raven, are you back with us? Maybe not. She's got a, well, you've got the green bars on the connection there. But anyway, I thought they did some really slick world building with that one. So we can talk about it, but I don't know. But yeah, I only find the Gumroad link and I will share that in the chat so that everybody can check it out. It's probably.
So the first thing we need to do is we just need to make sure that I'm surprised that you're not the one who dropped the internet. So like that's new.
Yeah, well, it's normally because like when that happens, it's because my battery runs out, but I just had it on the charger. So that's
I always say it's because you forgot to hand crank your internet generator.
Well, yeah. Actually, the funny thing is, like, people don't really know this, and it's not true for every part of Nebraska, but we out here have a lot better connection than many people in like urban areas.
Hello.
So,
what's up?
Are you really back this time, Raven?
I'm back, and this time there's no lag. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine.
Did you pay your Spectrum bill?
I must. I know. I went ahead and sacrificed my monthly goat to Spectrum, and I think we're on good terms now.
All right.
Do they accept the goat as payment? Because we're paying more than a goat's worth in money for our connection.
You got to come over here to San Diego. It's all sorts of ominous.
That's not true. So, but yeah, okay. So you came on with Durags. What issue?
Yes, I came on in issue 6, and then they had me on for issue 7, and then we backtracked and redid the prologue and issue 1, and now we're currently on a new IP under the Rags team called Sailor Rogowski. It's really fun.
Now, is that one coming out in color?
Oh, it is?
Because I think the copy I have is not colored.
That is correct, right? So originally with this one, the Namco team wanted to keep it monochrome, traditional to manga, but then some kind folks bothered Mr. Brian Ball enough to where he was like, "Okay, fine, we'll do it in color." And I'm very fortunate to be the colors of choice at this point in time. So they've got me on for the colors, and oh my gosh, it's a hoot! It's a hoot.
Why? Hang on a second. My connection. I'm looking for your link to put onto the thingy. Hang on. Sorry. Just I'm my goodness. Okay. So with the thing, let's talk a little bit because we were talking a little bit while you were gone because I read Machi earlier this week.
Oh,
and
plus.
Yes. And Twitless, I guess, read it today. Did you get both issues or did you just read the first one?
I mean, I'm on a budget, so I can only afford one of the $1 issues today.
That's fair. That's fair.
Sorry. It's cutting into my, it's either that or, eat.
I hear you. I hear you. I prefer you to eat, of course.
I don't believe that for a second. But one of the things let's talk a little bit while I'm getting this other thing on another screen. I will listen. What was kind of your motivation, inspiration for Machi?
Oh my gosh. So Machi, I actually began working on it back in 2016, back during Halloween. And, as an artist, I participated in Inktober, which back then was going by the name Inktober. So in it, you're prompted to draw something different every single day. So I just created a character with a pumpkin bun, and I thought it was really fun. I thought it was such a fun design, and I ended up just jotting down the name Machi, and then I wrote The Lazy Witch next to it. And I thought that would be a really fun idea to build a story around, was this character who's a witch who comes across as lazy, and I kind of just built a little world for her to live in over the course of the next few years. And finally, 2019, I was able to make it into an actual comic thanks to Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And yeah, so that's kind of where it started, was a little doodle for Inktober.
Very cool. Very cool. And one of the things that I think is most interesting about the property is that you do this like kind of behind the I don't even know how to say it. It's like your world building is super organic.
Oh,
right?
thank you so
Like
much.
so you have all of these things that are separate from the real world. You have all of these things that like make the world of Machi just its own textured thing. And they definitely have, like, you can see influences from other properties in there, but none of it seems forced or pushed, right?
Oh,
So
thank you.
it's not done in a way where you're beating people over the head with your alternate history, right? Now, I love alternate histories. I love world building. I love that kind of deep lore stuff. But I also know that, like, it's a really easy thing to lose your audience by telling them how cool the first age was, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things that I think you did really well is you have all of these things, from the way money works to the way society, even transportation works, that are unique or different from the context of your readers, because it's not real. But they does it in such a way that doesn't feel out of place. And that's one of the things that I think was really cool. Was that something that you thought about going into it? You were like, well, how do I shake this out? Or was it just something that came out with the way that you wrote?
Right. So, well, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. So I didn't actually start jumping into fantasy outside of anime until I was like 20. So just before I started writing Machi, I was really intimidated by the fantasy genre, because it seemed like every large scale fantasy story I wanted to get involved in had, it's large, so it's gonna have a huge history that smacks you in the face, and I could never get invested. So I kind of started introducing the world building in ways that I personally thought would be interesting for people to see. Like, you don't need to know how magic works here. You know that it works. Unless you want to know, then you can find out later. But when you first walk into the story, I don't want there to be any, like, in your face, here's the history and lore. I want you to be able to be like, oh, okay, cool. Money works differently here. It's these gelatin cube things. You can squish them together to combine them, just some silly, fun things. Because my audience for Machi is all ages. So the last thing I want to do is confuse or overwhelm someone at any stage in life. So that's kind of what I wanted to go for with that.
And I think you pull it off really nicely on that. So now, does it have any like connection to the real world, or is it just its own self-contained thing that has no real crossover?
Yeah, it's its own self-contained thing. There's no human world. There's no other dimensions in this. It's just a simple kind of story, I'd say.
And so, are there non-magical beings in your world? That's the next question there.
So, yeah, that's a great question. So there are, in the sense that those individuals aren't using their magic. So, say it's kind of like, how do I explain this? You know how everyone on Earth, they can draw or they can paint, they have that ability. But if they choose to pursue it and refine those skills, that they become efficient at it and use those skills often. That's the way it works in Machi as well. Everyone is born with the ability to use a small amount of magic, but in order to develop their magic, they have to practice it. So.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So Machi is on her way to school. Now, this is one of the things I don't know if anyone's ever probably people have said something like this before. She's on her way to school, and she's got to go buy supplies at the magic stores, right?
Yes.
And anybody who has been alive in the last 20 years is going to have seen that scene in Harry Potter.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And so there's definitely some nods or whatever, or it's just that's just such a part of our pop culture that it's unavoidable, right? Were you trying to do like an homage thing, or is that just a necessary step? Because when you go to school, you have to buy your Big Chief tablets. They don't make Big Chief tablets anymore, do they?
I don't think so.
That's I guess I'm dating myself there. So,
but yeah, to answer your question, it's kind of a combination of the two. I grew up on Harry Potter, absolutely loved it, and I really love shows or movies or any sort of storytelling where the character goes and they gather their supplies, because it's an experience when you go shopping and you buy something for yourself. Like, oh, I'm going to be using these tools. It's a fun experience that a lot of people can relate to, and it was really important, especially since she's starting school. She will need supplies. I thought it was a good opportunity for the audience to kind of see the world she lives in a little bit more. And obviously, I love Harry Potter, so there's going to be some connections.
And one of the things I thought was really fun about that too, and this goes back to the concept of the story as a whole, and I don't know where it's going long term, but one of the things that I thought was really neat was that it doesn't have there's like, from the very first page of Harry Potter, you're overwhelmed almost with this sense of destiny. Right. Or, you're pounded into the idea that, Harry's the chosen one. And that's kind of fun in that story's context. But in Machi, it seems way more like this is just the life of somebody. It's almost a slice of life.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And then that's kind of what I was going for with the story. I'm glad you brought that up. It's more of a soft storytelling, like a slice of life. It's not so action driven or purpose driven. You'll get to see Machi achieve goals with her friends and accomplish things and progress. And then obviously there's the graduation. What comes after graduation? So, but it's a much gentler storytelling. So it is more slice of life in that way.
So you said, other than like manga and stuff, you hadn't really gotten into much fantasy. What is the inspiration that you have from manga? What are some of your favorites, or manga, anime, that kind of thing? I know I said manga, I meant anime, but we're going to pretend that I'm not an idiot and didn't say the wrong thing.
It's all good. Gosh. So for manga, I started reading a lot of the Clamp series, things written by Clamp. So I grew up on Chobits and things like that. So that was a big part for me, was Chobits. I loved that. That was a really good manga. But honestly, if we're looking at it, I would say that you're right. I'm more anime driven than I am manga. So you're not wrong. But Machi was kind of really influenced by a lot of my favorite slice of life animes, or semi slice of life animes, like K-On!, Idolmaster, things like that. Just some funny stories that are pretty lighthearted and relaxing.
Very cool. Very cool. So now you've been working with I'm just kind of
sorry, I hate to interrupt. I always think it's a great idea if you can show us. Can you share screen with anything?
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Because as we talk about your comic, I think it's always great to show that to the audience and for you to walk us through some of that, because it's one thing to talk about a story, it's another to like show it, especially in comics. I really think that helps.
Right. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry.
Oh no, it's nothing to apologize for. I've noticed this on a lot of streams. We always forget this. We talk about it and then it's like, we got to show it. It's comics.
Oh right. Let me pull up some stuff here and I'll share screen. Yeah.
Sweet.
Thank you for that.
Oh.
Okay. It might not be the prettiest format, so I do apologize.
So here we have retail therapy is a thing, talking about shopping.
Yes.
And this is a fairly recent piece that you've done, right?
Yes. This is one of my digital paintings that I did recently. I'm trying to practice lighting and different techniques just for fun on the side. You can never stop learning. So I just did one of Machi not too long ago. So the pumpkin bun in all its glory.
We do have also a question from the chat. Are there any people in the universe that have a magical disability?
Well, yes. See, that's a great question. I'm glad they asked that. So yes, there will be some people introduced later on who don't have any magic whatsoever. They just never were able to form it. However, it's not the integral part of the story, so it's not touched on too much. But yes, that answers the question.
So very cool. Very, very interesting. Let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and, because I should have it. Where was that? It was just right over here on this other screen. There we go.
Very warm colors.
Thank you. I try to keep like the story really colorful and cozy. Like I want people to feel relaxed when they read Machi. Like it's meant to be like a comfort comic.
Like comfort food?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. I definitely love the price point. I love comics at $1. That's my favorite. That's my favorite price to pay for comics, apart from free.
Yeah, free is always ideal.
Actually, I'd push back against that a little bit. There's something about people say that if you don't put a price on something, people won't value it.
Mm-hmm.
But then some people they'll price like comic books, and this is one of the things that's held me back on some of the Kickstarters and Indiegogos, where it's like $25, and it's like, man, for $25, I can get a lot of value in other places. But for $1, I'm paying for it, so I know I'm getting something of value. It's just the way it works in your brain, and then it's also like I'm not paying too much for it. So
yeah, and that's one thing that I really wanted to do was make sure that the comic was affordable. Even through Kickstarter and Indiegogo, every tier that I had the comic physically available on came with bonus goodies. So you were getting extra things on top of your purchase already. So I really wanted to make the backers feel like they were being spoiled with their purchase. Like they were getting so many extra goodies. Oh my goodness, I wanted to make them spoiled.
And those were like stickers. And did you do trading cards too? Or?
Yes, we did. I did trading. I say we. It was just me. I did trading cards exclusive to the Kickstarter and exclusive to Indiegogo, so then people can trade in between.
Very cool.
I have some of those trading cards here too. I can show you guys. Let's see.
And so the other part of the thing with that too is you've done 2 issues, and you were talking earlier about a third, right?
Yes. Yes.
Is that coming out? Do you have a time frame on when you're gonna have that out? Because Brian's got to be keeping you pretty busy, right?
Yeah, it's been a very busy and productive year. I've been very fortunate in that aspect. But I do have a deadline for Machi issue 3. It's coming out October of this year.
Okay.
The pages are already in progress, and I can actually share one of those pages with you guys.
Well, sweet.
Page 1. With this, it's been a year since I've published any Machi work, so I've had plenty of time to learn as much as humanly possible about comics. And when I tell you, I feel like there's a huge difference between issue 1 and issue 2. Boy, howdy, I truly mean it. So this is page 1 for issue 3. I really worked on the lettering and the layouts and learning dynamic angles for characters. That was a thing I really wanted to expand upon in the future issues, was getting to show the characters from cooler angles than just the side. So with page 1, I think you get a good feel for that.
And so you are doing the whole gamut with this, right? You're writing the color, ink, the pencils, everything, huh?
Right. Yes. So Machi is my brain baby. I try to do everything that I can just on Machi myself, like the one-man machine. But in doing the Kickstarter and creating issues 1 and issue 2, I learned the importance of a flatter. So I have a younger brother who I love dearly, and I reached out to him and I was like, hey, can I teach you how to flat? I'll pay you, and we can work together on this. And he's been working as my flatter ever since. So I do have him on for the flat colors, but yeah, everything else is me.
Well, very cool. Is it digitally drawn, or do you use paper first?
It's all digital. It is all digital. I gave away all of my physical art supplies. So yeah, it's all digital.
Okay. Well, there you go, Star. It's all digital. So yeah, I mean, it's got a super clean look. I will tell you, I'm not much of an artist, but I do like drawing on paper over. I'll do coloring digitally, of course, but I really like drawing on paper if I'm going to. Something about the graphite the wood pulp just feels right. But,
I hear you.
once again, I grew up with a Big Chief tablet, so
I don't know what that is.
Big Chief. They were a brand of writing paper that was I don't know how popular it was, but it was fairly common up until at least through the mid 80s, and it was just like newsprint paper, and it was just for teaching kids to write on. It was super cheap and
man, that's nice.
Yeah.
Better than me. I just like to draw on bathroom stall walls with a magic marker.
That's because you're a degenerate.
Good old Sharpie.
Proud of it.
So, coming up October, that sounds pretty exciting. Now, earlier today, I'm going to change subjects. Actually, let's hold off on that. Let's hold off on that for a second. Off of the subject of art entirely.
Okay.
You've, like I said, you've been working with Brian for a while, but you guys have more in common than just art.
Yes. Both Brian and I, he's still currently serving, and I did prior service in the Marine Corps, and he's National Guard. So.
And thank you for your service. I know some people don't like to hear it, but it actually means something to me. Who I'm not the kind of person that could work in that environment at all. So.
It's a hoot, I'll tell you.
So, but yeah, it's still really important. And how long were you in for?
I was in for 2 years. So I did as much as I could until I had to say my fare thee wells, and yeah. So now I just do art, it's great. When I was in, a lot of people don't know this, I was actually a heavy equipment operator. And I'm not exactly tall. I'm 5'4".
I've heard rumors of this.
Yeah. So I used to drive those big bulldozers and all that fun stuff, all the big heavy machines. I learned to drive that before I learned to drive a car, so that was fun.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you went in, you didn't know how to drive a car?
I didn't. I joined straight after high school, like immediately after. I had just gotten my permit to learn how to drive, and then my permit expired when I was in boot camp.
Wow.
So I didn't even get my license until I was like 20 when I got out, because I was stationed in Japan when I was in. So I was over in Iwakuni, just below Hiroshima. And when you're in Japan, they will not let you get a driver's license unless you go through like a very long course. You have to be a specific rank to even get approved for that time off. It's just not possible, realistically speaking.
Wow. Okay.
It was a hoot.
So here's a question, right? Brian was on a couple weeks ago, and I was giving him the runaround, asking questions about Sailor Rogowski, right? Because I got a chance to read the preview. I still have not read the full book yet, because whatever. I know. Doesn't matter. Yes, Neo, it is Raven.
Hi, Neo Star. Oh, yeah. Love Neo. Neo's a sweetheart.
Yeah. Dude, that guy, he actually, he came on. We did a special show just to have him on as a guest.
Nice.
A couple weeks ago, I was able to do a Saturday show. So you can go back. We talked about blaxploitation movies and talked about Riserman and all kinds of stuff. It was a fun show.
Nice. Oh, I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the point. One of the things that I really loved about the preview, right? And I think Brian did a really good job of hitting on it without belaboring the point, so it seemed preachy, was the ethnic disparities and tensions that are subtextual to the story, right? And I thought you weren't going to show your face, Twitless. Now you've thrown me off my game. I had a question. But no.
He's gone now. Oh no. Oh no, Twitless, come back.
Well, if that's what the guest wants. No, seriously though. And I thought that was really interesting and well done. And he was talking about, some of having had some experiences and knowing some people that have been through that whole thing and channeling that into the story.
There you go. I figured I'd just have this up.
There you go. Awesome.
So is that something that I mean, your experiences in Japan, are those part of the things that he worked into that at all, or not?
It's funny. He also spent time in Japan, so
Right.
he has his own separate experiences. But I'm sure he didn't pull any of that from me. But I had very similar experiences while I was in Japan, which was kind of heartbreaking a little bit. I only have one really good example. Some friends and I, we were going to go to a manga cafe off base. So we all got together. We went to the cafe, and
you have to stop because
Yes.
I have no idea what makes a cafe a manga cafe.
Oh goodness! Oh my gosh! I am so sorry. Okay, so in Japan, they have these cafes that you can sleep at. Like you can fall asleep while reading books. You can just play internet games the whole time. It's like a 24-hour cafe for people to just go hang out, read the books that they have, play video games, and some people will stay there the entire night or for even longer. I've heard of some people using it as temporary housing, which my goodness. But yeah, so that's where we were trying to go, was one of these cafes just to kind of experience it. And the group that I was with, we were very diverse. I was the only white girl. And we go up there, and I thought we were going to be fine. And they stopped us at the door, and in broken English, the gentleman, I guess he worked there or he owned the place. He let us know, no Americans, not allowed, no Americans.
Dang.
And it was just outside the base. Like, so this man must be turning people away a lot, you know? So I was like, okay, that's interesting, because we'd been warned about that. When you first go to Japan, they give you a huge seminar, this week-long course of things to expect. And one of them was this. Like, they train you. They're like, hey, be prepared for people to tell you no just because you're an American. And it was
our government does that to us anyway, so I guess
I'm right. It was so unexpected. It was the first time I dealt with it, and I'd been there for a few months, you know, and everyone had been so incredibly pleasant and so sweet. Like, I went to the beach, and there was this little old lady walking around with a bag of like groceries, and I don't remember how the conversation started, but she basically came up to me and was speaking Japanese to me and started handing me things out of her bag, like just giving me her groceries. I was like, what is happening here? My friend had to come and translate roughly, and she was just saying, oh, here, take these. You can have these. These are for you. And it was like some treats and stuff. It was really sweet of her, but it was like so nice.
She must have thought you looked emaciated or something. Just like, oh, this girl. Well, so around here, I live in West Nebraska, and so you hear stories about people's German grandmothers, right? Who because we have a very high Russo-German population here, and if you've got a German granny, she will automatically think you're starving to death, even if it's not like I don't have a German granny, but some of my friends did. And back in the day when I was young, my friends' grandmothers rather would force food into my wrap up last night's supper, and here, you need this. And I'm like, well, seriously, I have a fridge full of stuff. No. Have this casserole.
I love it. I love it when people just like they shove off their leftovers on you, and you're just kind of like, oh, this is just how I'll live now. Thank you. It's sweet. Like the behind everything, it's a super sweet gesture.
It can be.
So funny. But yeah, so a lot of things touched in Sailor Rogowski, like the locals speaking poorly, assuming that Sailor didn't know Japanese, and then she turns around and she's like, I know what you're saying. And then they're all surprised, Yeah, that kind of stuff does happen. And it's not very often. Usually people are super kind, but yeah, I'm glad that he touched on it, because you do see that.
Well, and it's so interesting too, because we've had I haven't had him on forever, but Carl Toons, Carl's Amateur Hour on Twitter, he is a huge like old school manga and anime fan, like mid-century stuff.
Nice.
And he's talked about it. We've talked about it a few times. I've had him on about there's this weird, it's not really weird, but it's very notable, this feedback loop between American pop culture and Japanese pop culture that, for 50 years you've been feeding back into and back out of each other. And so it's almost like we really should be best friends. But
Yeah.
because like, I want to say Japanese people as a whole, but Japanese culture has largely been influenced by American stuff, and American culture definitely has been influenced by Japan, and
Mhm.
it's been back and forth for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, I was actually I was looking at a documentary on turn of the last century art in the art scene in San Francisco, and
Mhm.
they were talking about how like a big a deal like that cultural exchange was in San Francisco with Japanese art um,
Mm.
before the before and leading up to World War II, World
Mhm.
War One, and like I guess relations between the countries got really strained in during that World War One time period.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
rise of the imperial state and everything. It was, I that's not something that I had known about or anything. So it was really interesting to kind of find that, dating back to the opening of Japan, that
Mhm.
the relationship with America has been something that's been, give and take and come and go since that happened.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I went to a resume course, and one of the instructors there was telling us his horror story of how he'll never be able to go travel to Japan for business for his company anymore because he had a bad exchange. So what had happened was he was part of a company. I don't remember exactly what it did, but it was a part of a company, and they sent him to Japan to go discuss adding some new products or something along those lines. And I guess no one had briefed him beforehand that American business and Japanese business, they operate very differently.
Mhm.
It's not business oriented, it's family oriented. So when you go to Japan, you want to sit down and get to know the people you're speaking with. Like it's very important to them that you don't see them as money, that you see them as people. So this guy, no one had told him, bless his heart. So he walks into this meeting, and they greet him, they sit him down, they start asking him like, do you have a wife, do you have kids? And he was like, yeah, anyway, so here's this stack of paperwork I need you to sign. And they kicked him out.
Yeah, because
They
it was just
told him to go. Yeah.
yeah. Well, even then, you'd think you could read the room a little,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you would assume so. And I'm just kind of like, man, you didn't even go along with it. And he's like, no, I was there for business.
Well, yeah, I get, but I mean, if somebody's leading off with asking about your family, then that's
Mhm.
probably the first thing they're asking, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, take a hint, But
Yeah.
this poor guy,
I mean, I don't
his company was like, "We're never sending you back. You screwed that up for us." Like, geez, Louise.
wow, that's pretty crazy. Oh,
It's a-
Neo says that you drew 2 excellent drawings of Riser Man and drew one of your artist OCs. So,
yeah. I was very fortunate to be able to work with NeoStar on some commissions.
yeah.
I love doing character illustrations for people. It's so fun just being able to draw their character. It's kind of like it's an honor, really.
Yeah, I think so. It's also really fun because I don't know that I've ever met anybody who has more like love for their character than Neo does. He just I mean, it
Oh
really
yeah.
it's contagious.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I love the
yeah,
passion they have for their character.
so
It's inspiring, really. It's
I
great.
feel a little different as a creator than I think some creators do, because when we set out to start this Ideal Comics thing back in the day, we came up with a universe full of hundreds of characters.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I can't necessarily pick. I can pick a handful of them that are like
Mhm.
the ones I've written the most and I enjoy the most, that I would have been surprised by the way their characters take turns have taken.
Yeah.
But I can't just be like, hey, this is the one thing that I can laser focus in on.
Oh my gosh. I hear
So,
ya. I seem to have that problem as well. I'm now working on 3 different comics, and each of the main characters is just I love them so much. Like I couldn't put the 3 against each other. I would just cry.
which is an interesting segue, because earlier today you shared that you are writing a project
Yes.
that you're not drawing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So the past year, I've really been working on my writing because when I made Machi because I wanted to draw Machi and kind of show the story through the art. But as I was working on Machi, I really fell in love with just writing in general, which I was not expecting ever. If you would have told my English teacher that I'd be Googling English, she'd say I'm lying. But yeah, I really fell in love with writing, and I reached out to Brian, and I was like, "Hey, Brian, your artist on Rags is god tier. If you guys ever need a break, let me know." So we ended up coming to a bit of an arrangement. So now I have Luigi Terrell, who is phenomenal artist. Let me just share with you some of the character designs he's done for this project. I am just hoo-wee. Smitten as a kitten. There we go. It was glitching a little bit. Yeah, so I started writing this story, which is kind of like, everyone has such an interesting relationship with death, be it positive or negative. Oh, someone in the chat knows about it already. Nice. Yeah, Fragment.
Death friend zoned me on Twitter.
Oh,
and won't let me slip into her DMs. So you apparently have a better relationship with death than I do.
I'm sorry to hear it. I'm sure she'll let you back in, but hopefully it's not anytime soon.
Can you put in a good word?
You know what? I'll
give me a reference.
I got you. Right. I'll write a little email.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, so I wrote this comic as kind of like a love letter to death, and to trauma in general. I think I read this article that was talking about, what happens to the human soul, like what happens when you feel that twinge of pain when something breaks your heart. You know what I'm talking about? Like that actual physical ache in your chest when something traumatic happens. And I thought, what if that's your soul getting damaged? What if that's your soul splintering into a fragment? And I thought a little deeper on that. I was like, what would happen when you pass away if your soul is too small, if there's not enough of your soul to pass on? What becomes of a soul then? So I wrote an entire story around that. And these are some of the characters for it.
What if your soul is too fat?
Good question. That's just extra success.
I don't think your soul could be measured in fat. But
mine can. I don't know about you, sir, but
it's sort of like, who had more soul, Louis Armstrong or.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Anyway,
Patrick Stewart.
Doesn't he look like him?
or is it Grant Morrison?
See,
that's not Grant.
That's the funny thing with this character is I sent Luigi a mood board of a bunch of different gentlemen that all kind of looked similar, and he combined them all into one. And he looks so familiar, and yet he's no one. So that he kind of just hit it on the head what I was going for.
That's kind of exactly how Father Redder from, I don't know if you're familiar with Doug Ernst's Soulfinder, but his main character, Father Redder, he had the same kind of thing where he's like, he said to Tim Lim, he's like, I want the guy to look like these three people.
There you go.
3 or 4, I don't remember how many it was, but
oh my gosh.
For those of you out there, you can go back and see my first full Soulfinder interview with Doug Ernst from 2 years ago when he says how many people are there, but I don't remember.
Someone's gonna fact check it. I believe.
Who knows? It'll probably just if Tim listens in tomorrow, because sometimes he catches it on replay and he'll just like email me and he's like, "Listen, stupid."
I love Tim.
It was Dave Dorman that did the work, the design work, not me. I was like, okay, jeez.
He's just looking out, just trying to make sure everything's covered correctly, I suppose.
There you go.
There you go.
So I love that concept, the idea of the soul breaking, right? That whole idea is conceptually neat, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, here's a question from the chat before I get into it here. What if your soul is divided? Does it stop you from passing on? Do different soul fragments go to different places? Or how do you connect to a divided soul?
So many good questions in this. Oh my gosh. So the soul in this story, when the soul is broken, shattered into tiny pieces, and all that remains in the core is a sliver, a little fragment of the soul, then instead of passing on, ascending to heaven or descending to hell, whatever it may be, you become a Grim Reaper. So your soul has time to reform and reheal. So while you're a Grim Reaper, you have no knowledge of your past. So whatever trauma caused your soul to shatter will not re-shatter you. So you can slowly become whole again.
I'm getting some Bleach vibes.
See, that's what a lot of people have said.
Yeah, okay.
So very similar, except there's no big fights like that. Yeah. It's more of
So I'm actually
big fights. I'm sorry, I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah, I'm done. No, I want to ping off that for a second, because one thing that I thought was neat about Bleach that they didn't explore, because they set up the whole. Are you familiar with Bleach much?
Yes, I'm familiar with it. I haven't
Gotcha.
read through all of it though.
Yeah, so I've done smatterings here and there, and I'm a wiki whore, so I just read wikis all the time. But so I have like a bunch of knowledge of things I haven't read in like all areas. But
it seems like a branch of whoredom that wouldn't pay well.
It doesn't. But what's neat about Bleach was that at the very beginning they set up this interesting concept of like, you know, the soul society and like what happens after you die, and what even happens after you die for the second time. And like the whole like, because I think if you die once you become a Shinigami, or you go to Soul Society, and if you're a Shinigami and you die when you're in Soul Society, you get reincarnated, but then you lose all your memories and stuff. And so when they started introducing all the other like major like fighting arcs and stuff, they kind of just focused on the fighting, and they had dropped some of the emotional resonance of the earlier episodes, because in the first 2 or 3 episodes they have the story about a kid who dies, and he gets like his soul is like in a bird, and like the monster that killed him is still after him, and then like I think they help the soul that's in the bird pass on, and there's some really kind of like touching moments there. And later on the series it just becomes about the superpowers that everyone has,
and that's what I'm not trying to go for.
So it sounds like that you're trying to. It sounds to me, if I'm not mistaken, that you're drawing more from like the emotional resonance of like some of the early Bleach that had like the real like, you know, stuff about, you know, death and moving on and passing on and stuff, as opposed to late Bleach, which was just, you know, basically trump card and then trump card. It was just game of trump cards is what it was.
Yeah, a whole bunch of just screaming and getting stronger. Yeah, no, exactly. You hit it right on the head. I'm really trying to go for more of the emotional side of this, because like I said, everyone's relationship with death is so personal, and I want to go about it in a respectful and enjoyable way. So it's not entirely doom and gloom. There are moments of hope and happiness, but I'm not turning it into main character with crazy hair fights dragon with a sword. Like, no.
You got something against that?
No. It's not like I'm insanely jealous or anything. No.
So are you saying that Machi will never fight a dragon?
No. Well, that'd be fun.
I know it's not related, but I mean the crazy hair thing, and suddenly, I don't know.
If there's a dragon with crazier hair, she might have to fight them for her right for main character hair. I don't know.
I think any dragon with hair would have to have crazier hair.
Oh, but would a dragon have hair like a horse, though? Like a mane? Or would it be like a toupee? Oh.
I think it depends on the dragon.
Yeah, man. Now I gotta see it.
So the whole concept of Fragment sounds like really fun.
Plus.
Right? I think that sounds really cool, and I love the Luigi art. My goodness sakes. I have to say though, at the risk of like, you know, me tooing or whatever you want to call it. Many years ago, my buddy Chris and I we co-founded the Ideal Company, and back in 2004, I think it was, we actually pitched an idea that was a similar concept, but it was a murder mystery.
Oh, nice.
It was supposed to be a series of murder mysteries we were trying to pitch to a company, and we didn't get a lot of traction on it. But the idea was that these crimes leave like soul residue or psychic residue, and that ghosts and hauntings were not spirits presently, but they were the tears in history of these violent crimes. And so the unnamed detectives' job was to, solve the crimes and bring about what restitution was available, and then kind of heal the soul space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't go anywhere, and it kind of got mothballed. So who knows?
Oh, it's unfortunate.
Who knows if it could
so
ever be addressed? But that was something we were trying to pitch around, and we actually the funny thing is that we have for years, probably 3 years, Chris and I just collected rejection letters trying to send stuff to other companies, and that's why we started Ideal back in the day, was because we were sick of getting rejected. We're like, well, if we just publish them ourselves,
yeah, there you go. That's the way to go about it.
This is before crowdfunding and everything, so it was, that's the thing.
Really pioneering it, man.
Because I'm old.
Oh,
but
mercy.
I've been actively failing since 2005, so
Hey, failure will never fail you. You know what I'm saying? It just pushes you forward a little bit. I have that cheesy quote on my computer right now, like a little sticky note.
So,
yeah, I hear you though. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You were saying?
I was going to say there are so many good ideas out there that people are afraid to either start or continue because they're worried that there's not a publisher out there for it. And that's why I love crowdfunding so much, because Machi wouldn't have been possible before. I was contacted by a publisher after I made Machi. So if you just get out there and you just make things happen, you don't have to rely on someone else if you can count on you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think one of the big factors in a lot of that too is the ability of the social media gives us to find an audience, right?
Yes.
And that's something that, like, you look at, like, I think it's a factor for anybody who's creative, because even if you have like somebody like Doug TenNapel, right?
Yeah.
Been in the business forever, but without social media, like finding his market again, finding those customers to come back into the fold could be a huge challenge, And of course, the irony of all of that too is that we're in a place where, for some people, Doug included, the media is trying to the new media is trying to find a way to, end run around him. So
it's unfortunate. It really is.
So if you say the wrong things, they'll come after you.
Yeah,
the other option is have a really tiny channel that no one knows about.
You could go either way. Man, it's rough. It really is. You got to kind of tippy-toe around some subjects, and I hear that. I'm really careful in the things that I post and I share, just because I want to be all-inclusive. But I do fear for the day that, like, what if I share something that someone not so great shared? Oh no! Like, I can only hope that people judge me based off of my character at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, with Fragment, what are you looking at for time frame on all of that stuff?
Yes. So right now we're currently working on the first 15 pages as a teaser, and every page, like from sketch to final, is available on my Patreon for like as little as $1 a month. I'm sharing all of that content and an exclusive physical print with my patrons who have been with me for a little bit. So they're going to get the physical copies first, but we're not looking to do any crowdfunding until I get the second half of the 15 pages, which at this point I don't have set in stone. I do have him, Luigi, for the first 15, then he goes back to Brian, and I'm not sure when I'm going to get Luigi again, so I'm kind of at the mercy of Namco, but that's okay.
Well, and I'll be completely honest. Like I'm tempted to say I'm cool with that, because I'm really wanting to, put a little pressure on Brian to get the punchline rags. CGI story done that he started 2 years ago.
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff in the works. So like I was saying, I'm very fortunate to even get Luigi for a little bit. So I've got him for these first 15 pages of the story. And then after that, it's kind of playing it by ear. I'm hoping that by the end of the year, we can get the remaining 15 pages to complete issue 1. But the first 15 pages do leave on a cliffhanger. So even then, if people were interested, I could do physical prints of that. If people are up for it,
So now I see it's all grayscale. Is it going to be grayscale in the final, or is that just for the teaser?
This is just for the teaser. These are just the inks that I have. I'll be doing them in full color, and I have a new coloring style that I'm thinking about trying out, which kind of gives the skin like a rainbow kind of lighting to it. I'm going to be trying out some new things with the coloring for this. I'm really excited for it.
Cool. Very cool. And so when you're getting them from Luigi, are they coming with the grayscale just like it is, or are you going in and adding the shades?
No, this is all this right here, all Luigi. I have done nothing editing wise to this page. This is just how he sends them.
That's impressive.
It's beautiful.
Very cool. Very cool. Glad to have you back, Star, by the way. But yeah. So but yeah, it's a super, his stuff is so clean. I just can't get over it. So, and if you ever take the time to check out Force of Good and Evil, you'll understand why I appreciate clean art.
All right.
Because I can't do it.
It is a hoot. It is a hoot. So with Luigi, I actually reached out to him last year to ask him if he'd be willing to like kind of be my art mentor, because I was really trying to work on my art skills. And he ended up teaching me how he uses his brush. And this is low quality, so I do apologize, but the brush that he used is super bumpy. It's a super bumpy, super textured brush. And I, when you look at his stuff, you might not know that, but yeah, he uses a super textured brush.
Oh, wow. So it's just because the lines are small.
Yeah. He keeps them the same size. Like that's the key to his consistency, is keeping the brush size the same. Because if you're having really thick lines versus really thin lines, it's a whole thing. But yeah, that's one thing he's really good at, is his line work. It's insane. Cool.
That's actually fascinatingly interesting. So speaking of stuff, what or technicality, what kind of tools do you use?
I use a Cintiq, and then I use Clip Paint Studio for everything. Now that Clip Paint and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but Clip Paint recently got some new features where they allow you to take brushes from Photoshop and just use them in Clip Paint Studio, which is the whole reason I was using Photoshop before, because I liked those brushes. And now Photoshop is obsolete to me.
Yeah, I've been using Clip Studio for about a year. I picked it up in 2019, about halfway through 2019. I bought it because of the lettering tools.
Yes, the lettering tools are nice.
Because I am not an artist, right? I've done it, but that's not really my forte, right? But I wanted tools so we were working on a project that we're still working on. But I wanted it to because I had a whole book to letter, and I wanted to be able to knock it out really fast. And the program I was using before that was Paint Shop Pro 8, which was made for Windows ME.
Oh my goodness.
It's an ancient program. But I really liked a lot of the tools with it. And it had some fun balloons, and it was the last version that Jask made before Corel bought them.
Oh.
When you were in junior high, probably. Anyway, because that's how old I am. Anyhow, that's what I was still using, and I still use it for some things, believe it or not. But I bought Clip Studio because of the coloring. Because of the inking tools. The lettering tools. And I started using it to color our webcomic about a year ago, and I've really grown to love the thing. I've gone back and recoloring because we switched to a color format about 3 years ago with our new pages, and now our new pages are on hiatus for the moment. But I'm coloring the old pages with it, and I really like it. But there's a few things that I just can't figure out how to do. So I end up doing those in Clip Studio.
Clip Studio makes it so easy. Yeah, Clip Studio makes it so easy with everything as far as lettering and doing custom fonts goes. You just drag and drop, and boom, it's done. You can have your own folders for fonts that you specifically want to use. It's so handy.
Yeah, it's as lettering tools are just absolutely next level on it. But
yes,
I'm using Illustrator.
Illustrator is great too. The warping for the lettering, I'm using that for my sound effects, because that's the one thing Clip Paint can't do, is that kind of envelope wrap.
See, and that's something that like sometimes I'll take them and take the files, flatten them, and take them over to Paint Shop Pro because it does have the full vector effects on lettering.
Oh,
so,
good. There you go.
So because it's ancient, but it'll still allow me to it can convert text entirely to vectors, and then I can manipulate it any way I want. And I don't have that flexibility in Clip Studio, so I'm still have that ancient program installed in my computer for just that reason. And there's some other stuff too, like certain kinds of fills aren't the same in Clip Studio, and I'm learning how to do all that kind of stuff. And and Paint Shop Pro had an amazing selection of tiles for flood fills that were tile fills.
Oh, nice.
That were like textured and stuff. That like there's some really cool ones that Clip Studio has that you can download, and then there's some that like they just don't have it, like the brickwork that just isn't the same. And so there's sometimes I'll just do a flat color fill and then swap that color out for a different texture in the other program.
That's the funny thing when it comes to working on comics or digital art. You're often bouncing back and forth between multiple different programs. Kind of no matter how great the program is, there's always going to be one thing it can't do. So I hear you. Bounce around between programs. Like this font up here in the narrator box, that's from Clip Paint Studio, and then this down here is from Illustrator. So like you got to bounce around.
So yeah, and then I wonder if there's things that you could like I just don't know how to do, right? Like you know, like one of the things that Paint Shop Pro is really fun is you can take any picture and turn it into a tile for a fill, right? And so we have the last Forza story, I have one character that had, you know, tartan pants, right? And so I use the pattern that I wanted, you know, like I couldn't do in Clip Studio because it only has like so many like plaids that you have options from, and it wouldn't autofill. So I was doing those panels, that particular guy's costume in the other program, so I could get it to have the pattern that I wanted in it, because Paint Shop Pro does it like just automatically. So
yeah, I wish Clip Paint had that. Like I know we have these colored ones that we can drag and drop in, but it's not like a bucket tool. It's not like an autofill.
And some of them seem smarter than others too. I've noticed that there's some of those drop-ins that like they'll scale down, but they won't repeat. And so it's just like, okay.
No, I hear you. Yeah, that's a lot of them are super inconsistent, which can be a pain. But
so you guys are talking coloring, and coloring is like my weakest spot in regards to any of this. I use Illustrator just for the lettering because I've been doing self-lettering the comic I'm coming out with now.
Nice.
And it's I have nothing but respect for the colorist. It's an interesting world, and it's a trade-off because, you know, when you go from black and white to color, you do trade off, you do get some things, and you do leave some things on the table because, like, you know, as some people have noticed, sometimes black and white art has more energy to it. But color is definitely an amazing, you know, especially for things like fantasy and superheroes. It's just, it's not the same if you don't have color.
Exactly.
But the things that I was learning was just that I don't know color, and I don't want to learn it because of how overwhelming it is. So I just want to find someone I can trust to handle color. Because when I dipped my toe, and it was just like teeny toe into the pool, and I was like, let's try to find a color of blue. And it was like, what you see as blue is actually 4,000 different shades, all represented at the same time with shading of blue. And I went, nope.
Oh no! Oh my gosh!
Not happening. So, hats off to you guys for who can actually go into the deep end of coloring, because holy cow, no.
It's a whole event.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely. And one of the things that you have too is trying to figure out, you know, just what you want to do with it too, because like, I mean, like different programs, different projects can work really well with their own palette. Right.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that that can be a real challenge, is coming up with, you know, how does your palette look? And I don't know a ton of color theory, right? I mean, we talked about it when I was in high school, but that was about it, So a lot of it comes down to, just finding out what fits together. And just from a lot of people I've talked to, some people just like you either kind of get it or you don't, I guess. It seems to be really like it's either intuitive or it's not. And that's an interesting thing. But
I think you have to have a particular mindset for it. Because like I said, my particular mindset, I think I would just need to do it so much more to get more comfortable with it. But I have it stressed me out because the knowledge that there's an ocean of color, but in my head, I think I know what color I want, but then it's like, even that color is a mishmash of all the other colors that are blending together at any particular moment under particular lighting conditions. And I was like, nope.
And also what really fits together. I mean, that's one of the questions too, is like, some things that you think would fit together don't. And then there's ways and then this is what goes beyond me. There's ways of using color that fake out the way you look at it. Right. So like actually this picture you brought up here is a really good impression, right? Like everybody knows looking at it that person has person colored skin, right? But that's none of those colors are shown in nature, right?
If you were to try to find like a reference, and this is an example. So if you were to go and you were to find a reference of someone not in this room with lighting, just a basic photo reference, you're gonna color steal that person's skin, put it on this character, and it's not gonna work. So the fun thing with Clip Paint Studio is that if your colors are ever just not looking quite right, or you want to change the tone of something, you can really just go in and do a clipping mask over top of the colors and then change the mode to darken or multiply. You can fiddle around with that. And that's kind of how I do a lot of my coloring, is I rely off of these extra modes to kind of help me understand what I'm looking at. And then you can just erase away what you want to light up. That's not the eraser. There we go. You can just erase away what you want to light up, and you can play around with lighting like that. So that's how I did that piece that I just showed you. Was I just did a multiply tool and kind of erased where I wanted the lighting, because I can't pick those colors out of my head. There's no way for me to be able to do that. My brain just doesn't work like that. But with these handy little modes over here, you can really do anything. So highly recommend.
Yeah, very cool. That's awesome.
Very cool.
Not know. I had not looked into the masks at all, so that's really cool. I will have to pay attention to that.
Highly recommend. That's how I do most of my stuff. Is I use the modes.
So the funny thing is like there's been times where I've had wanted to do a similar effect, and what I've ended up doing was just taking a layer and making a color transparency, and then dropping the transparency down and erasing. So it was the same thing, but I didn't know.
You could do it with way less steps.
There's just one step and you're done.
Yeah. Way less steps, you can do it.
So
that's
we're talking about colors. I did want to go ahead and share. This is a page from a book that we did called Joe Jobs, and this is something that I did. In most of this was done in Clip Studio.
Nice.
But this brick background is actually from Paint Shop Pro, as is the plaid on the blanket. And,
nice.
And everything else was done in Clip Studio. Oh, actually, this red fill is from Paint Shop Pro too.
And I read that.
So.
I think I read it the very night you sent it to me.
Probably.
Yeah, I did.
Because you gave me feedback the next day, so it probably was the same.
I'm telling you, you need to lean into the comics with an X. The tone and the artwork as well. What do you think, Raven?
I like it. I like the colors. They look good.
Right, but
I get a lot of compliments on the colors, believe it or not.
Raven, do you think does it strike you as kind of similar to comics with an X, the underground scene?
I'm not too familiar with that, so I apologize. I wouldn't be able to speak on that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and even then,
we're no longer friends.
No!
And even then, I'm not even sure how to. I'm not even sure I'd know how to lean into something like that. So
we'll talk. I'll talk to you about it. Yeah.
Because as far as marketing it, that's one of the things that I'm looking at, is trying to look at, what projects I have that can, roll quickly. Because, like, for example, this is our first print comic, right?
Nice.
From 2007, and it's black and white. It's 60 pages, and we have some paper copies. 64 pages. We have some paper copies that we went with black and white because it was so expensive to print color back then.
Oh yeah.
Right. And this is actually one of the original printings. This is the last one we have.
Ooh, sacred.
And it just happens to sit over my bookshelf next to where I broadcast from. But with it, right? I don't really. I mean, we've got some print copies we take to cons and stuff, but I kind of want to color it because they're all superhero stories, and I think color would really make them better. But I don't know that we can sell them for the price we need to get out of them.
Well, shoot. I mean, if you guys are ever in the market for a colorist, I'm just saying, I'd be delighted to help.
We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is, like, I'm poor. So
I hear that struggle, man. It's rough. That's why, like, whenever I'm working with someone, I try to keep that in mind. So I offer super flexible payments, like really whatever you can do, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to keep it reasonable because it can become overwhelming when you're making a comic. And if you want to bring on a team, like, what we were talking about earlier, this is my first time writing. I'm also writing another story, and I actually brought on 2 different artists for this project here. And this is coming out in August. But organizing a whole team, paying for a whole team, I'm using my own commission money that I get from coloring to pay for this comic.
So I totally respect that. I work a second job to afford the comic, The Adventures of Omega Girl, that I'm coming out with right now.
Oh,
so it's I completely respect the putting your own money down. I really think that's a good way to build a comic, especially if you haven't. I'm not talking about you, but if you haven't done the whole process from start to finish, I really think it's been working really well for me because it allows me to learn all the ins and outs and make all the mistakes I need to make without having the burden of someone else's money, which I could only imagine would be torture.
Oh my gosh, yes, that can kill creativity. That's why I see a lot of campaigns online, like at Kickstarter and Indiegogo comics that have never made a comic before. They only have, say, 4 pages out of, let's say, 30 done. And they're wondering why they're not getting funded. Well, if you haven't created a full-scale comic and people are putting their money into saying, well, I hope it's this time for you, it's a little risky. It can be a little scary. So I hear you, man. If you're paying for it out of pocket, it hurts you and no one else.
Yeah.
Indeed. So tell us a little bit about that one, that book, the Cookies and Scream. What's that about?
So this is another all ages story, kind of like Machi. This one's meant to be kind of really lighthearted and really silly. So we've got some monster characters. It's about a little girl named Audie Audley. Let me pull up her little picture here. She's my favorite thing in the world. Her name's Audie Audley, and she has a pet Argentine tegu named Gus Gus. And she's a huge.
That is a very specific species.
it's a tegu, but a lot of people they don't understand what a tegu is. And when you Google tegu, everyone uses it as a nickname. So specifically Argentine. But
so is it like a lizard thing, or is it like a?
It looks like a monitor lizard.
Yeah, they're related. Hang on, I'll pull up an actual picture for you guys. Let's do tegu.
I'd never even heard of something.
I'm a ball python breeder, so lizards and reptiles, they are my life. So this is what he's based off of, is an Argentine tegu. It's a big lizard that acts like a dog, and they are so funny. They'll play fetch, they'll eat potatoes. They are just the goofiest little dudes.
Weird.
And they are enormous. So that's her little buddy, which makes her the weird one in her Girl Scout group. So she's in a little group of snobby Girl Scouts, and she loves comics and lizards, and
she'd be the weird one in my Girl Scout troop too. Yep.
There you go.
Not gonna lie.
But yes.
Second.
So the story just follows little Audie as she finds herself in a magical world while trying to sell Girl Scout cookies. She stumbles across a little secret door, and she goes inside and she finds herself on the spooky side of town. So it's like her exact town except Halloweenish. It's full of monsters and vampires, and now she's trying to sell all of her cookies to these monsters, but they don't really have human money, so she just kind of does them favors and they just give her whatever. It's just a super goofy story. So she's just trying to sell all of her cookies to beat her rival, which is this girl named Madison, this little glittery girl. It's a super silly story. I don't know about you guys, but I love the feeling of Halloween, how goofy and silly everyone is around then. So I wanted to make a story that was really just lighthearted and fun. So that's what Cookies and Scream is. It's going to be a 3 to 4 part series. I'm kind of hesitating on maybe expanding just a tiny bit for the last issue. But the first 28 pages are in the works right now, scheduled to launch with a completed comic by August. Full color, all ages. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So now, are you going to be like just self-publishing that, or have you got like because I know like Machi's got a publisher, right?
Machi is no longer under a publisher.
Okay.
The contract with that resolved. So now Machi is just under me, and Machi has her own website and stuff. It's kind of cool being your own publisher. So I don't know if that's the route I'm going to stick with Cookies and Scream. I do have a local comic book shop that has already kind of put in a pre-order for the comic, so I might not need a publisher, which would be great. Which, yeah, it'd be very, very great to be able to, cut out the middleman and manage it myself. But we'll see. It's not something I'm against. I'm open to it. I'm looking at a few different publishers right now, but we'll kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. But I'm definitely producing the first issue myself, out of pocket, doing everything. I'm doing the colors, the lettering, the layouts. I'm doing a lot on this. My artists are doing the penciling and the character inks, and they are so good. They're amazing. Gilly Arts on Twitter, and then the other girl, I'm gonna have to find her name again, but they're just wonderful. They're just peachy.
Very cool. Very cool. So, so you've got a cute witches and monsters, and death.
Yeah.
So, are you ever gonna make a story that isn't covered in the devil?
Well, my name is Raven, so I think it's against my nature. I think my parents kind of predetermined how I was supposed to be.
Okay.
That's what I'm working on, hopefully it's stuff that appeals to people. If not, I'm sorry. I'll try to make something for everyone.
No, I was just
Crap.
So wait a second. You've got your name on your comic twice.
That is because my brother didn't want me to change his last name. So it's me and then also my brother. So
Okay.
I was like, do you want me to change it? And he's like, no, make it Munroe. And I was like, we're going to have double Munroe. And he's like, that's fine. That's cool. I was like, okay.
Actually, my boy Taliesin does some art for the company, but he spells his name the way we legally spell it, and I use the old Welsh spelling because it looks better.
Oh, there you go.
So it says Reese, and we're working on a book right now, and it's gonna be Gerdo, Reese, and Reese.
Nice. It's fun to have them like in the middle like that. I also kind of like how it laid out, so it'll look good on yours, man. That'll be good.
Oh yeah, it looks great. I think that's a big part of when it comes to any kind of printing thing. That's why when I back in high school when I decided I wanted to be a writer, I started going by the ancient spelling of my name because I thought it looked good in print.
There you go. There you go, man.
So that's all been part of that plan.
There you go.
But yeah, so although Star got it spelled wrong.
Speaking of which, we have some chats here. Ask her about her payment system and her services in payment slices.
Yeah. So the way that I work is case by case situation. So say someone wants to commission me for a comic page that they want color, just an example. And they show me the artwork. They show me all the detail in this page. And I look at it and I say, okay, great. I can do this for you for $50. And they say, okay, well, I only have 25 right now. And I'm like, that's fine. Let me set up an invoice so then you can pay 25 now and then 25 when we're done. or if they want to set it up in batches, hey, color these 4 pages for me. They pay me up front for the 4. I do that. It's really case by case what works best for the client, how I arrange the payments. It's pretty flexible, I'd like to say.
Good. I think that's a good way to work. There's sometimes artists that I have seen, and maybe it's because they've been burned by bad situations, so I don't hold it against them. But I will say that when I'm looking to commission and work with an artist, because working with an artist it's going to be a relationship no matter what. So I'm not saying that you to like necessarily cross the line into you want to be friendly, but not necessarily like buds necessarily, because it's still business. But I've seen people and like just their commission page, and because they want to, like, I guess, cut off any potential problems. It's like the beginning of the commissions is all it's all the no's, and it's all the I absolutely will have it done this way, and blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting there going like, oh my gosh, like
it's like
right, yeah. So like, and not everyone has the exact same situation. So I definitely think you need to protect yourself, and I'm not saying don't. But I have noticed there's a few people, and I'm like, I just don't even bother even trying to communicate with with certain people, especially when they throw off so many like red flags of like, I will do this, I won't do this, it has to be this way. You get one revision, like all this, and it's like, oh my gosh, just like if you're that particular working with you, it's not going to be a good experience for both of us.
That's a nightmare. That's really sad to see. Like, I commission artists as well. Even as an artist, I like to commission other artists, and seeing the way that different people organize that kind of first interaction, it's crucial. If the first thing you're telling a client is no, here's a wall of things, I'm building a wall. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to pay to climb over this wall. I'm just not interested anymore. So I totally hear where you're coming from, and it's really sad to see. In my services, I try to avoid that. There are very few things that I cannot draw, like mechas. Those are very difficult. So that's one thing that I'm like, hey, if you're looking for a mecha, I can direct you to artists who can do this for you. Unfortunately, I cannot. But as far as like I will only draw characters with blonde hair, like I've never seen that. But if someone were to say something like that, what? That'd be wacky. Just be silly.
Right. No. So the ones that I see people who are like, when it comes to like payment, they're like, they only have like one payment system, and it's like, and they'll say something like, I have to get 100% of it up front, no questions, no exceptions. And just the way even if you want to do it that way, I think there's a way to phrase it that doesn't like make it sound hostile before you even get to the first conversation.
It's very accusatory.
Yes.
Just putting just being like, you will pay me 100% up front. Like, whoa. That's the thing. When you work with people, you have to remember that they are people. They're not robots that will fit they won't check every box for you. You have to be flexible around some things.
Well, and the really crazy thing about something like that too is, that like there's a lot of artists, and I mean, I've been in this situation too, where you've got a deal with somebody. Unfortunately for me, it's not been a situation where it's been money out, right? But it's got a situation where you've got an agreement with somebody where we're gonna, like, we had our book that we're working on right now, Expositioner Solo Voce, right? We had an artist, got half of the pencils in the book, and then he flaked out. And we crowdfunded it all together. We were gonna split anything we made 3 ways, and now there's no pencil artist. So my inker and colorist has got to go back to page 1 to draw it.
That is rough. Oh my god.
It's tough. And our plan was, we're going to get the book together and then do a Kickstarter, back it up, and so hopefully try to make a little money on that side. But so we're back to page 3. That's
unfortunate, man. I'm sorry to hear it.
But
it happens.
But I would also say that, like, every week you basically say how you update on a weekly basis. And I think that's an important thing to do too, because as long as people can come to you and see those updates, because the people I see who get upset are the people who stop updating and like a year goes by.
Oh,
and
a year.
Yeah. But or the ones who take the money and run, and you're not doing that, Reese. You're making good. So like that's a whole different ball of wax.
But what I'm saying is, like, I know, like, there's situations like for, artists get screwed by writers get screwed by artists.
That is real. Right.
So
yes.
It's like,
Yes.
who was it? There was the guy who wrote, I think it was I can't remember the project right now. There's a guy who like paid up front for a 38 page, 40 page book or whatever, and the artist just flaked out on it. And like, man, that's tough.
That is a lot of money.
Well, and that's one of the it's a crazy thing, man. When people, and that's one of the things, like, business is tough for everybody, and the tough thing I think is extra hard is business is hard for everybody, and artists are horrible at business, right? So
that's a thing.
You put those things together, you can understand why, like, people are like, oh man, that's just really, how do you even function? I have no idea. I just,
I hear ya. I went to school originally for art and then transferred over to become an accountant. And then my school was shut down, but I was able to get some business classes in. So I'm very fortunate that, I was able to look at the business side of thing and learn business, because whenever you're working on a project, you need what? Project managing skills. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that. They just assume, oh, the artist knows what they're doing. Okay, but does that artist know project management? Like, do they know how to organize their time that's efficient for everyone involved, not just them? It's just one of those things.
Yeah, it is interesting because sometimes I don't want to speak out of turn, but sometimes, kind of like what Reese said, is the fact that artists are not the only people who can get screwed over in a project. Like, if you pay an artist 100% up front and then they never deliver, you can totally deal with that. And when I was doing some pages for Omega Girl early on in the process, I was working with an artist from out of the country, and he was a nice guy, but the communication wasn't great. And like I said, I think I wanted four pages, and he was just doing line art, so it was just pencils and inks. And like, so it was I think it took like 4 months to get the 4 pages, and there would be like a month or something of no communication. And it was just like, and I'd already paid half up front. And that happened to it. Actually, this happened to me twice. I was another guy from, it was Indonesia that time. And I paid him half up front for something for a page. He did like half the page. And then he just ghosted me. So,
good night. No.
I mean,
oh
yeah,
my gosh.
So yeah, well, the good news is that like, I didn't really lose out much on it. And I got my money's worth in terms of he gave me the half page, I guess, that he did, or whatever. But yeah, it's just, it's a process you got to work with. And I think that, I think the way you approach it is a good way to approach it, which is to kind of establish rapport and then figure out what's going to work for that person, negotiate it, as it were, and not be like, pushing people away.
Well, and it's a tough thing too, because one of the things that, we've run into through the years is that we've had the really good fortune of working with people, and we're still trying to find better ways of selling these books that we have. But we've had several art pages where we basically say, look, we're gonna front production and we're gonna pay you residuals the rest of your life. So
nice.
We're looking for new ways of selling these books so we can get money to our artists who did stuff for us back in 2006. So that's part of one of the things is trying to find new venues for it, is so that we can continue to pay these guys. So we've had people that have believed in the model, believed in the properties, and really given their all to it. But it's still a business, right? And so it only goes so far. I believe only goes so far. So that's definitely something where we're trying to find new ways of selling those books so that we can cut checks to these people. So
I hear
and more than like, oh hey, we sold 4 books this year, so here's your 83 cents. That's your share out of it.
Oh yeah, it's rough. Have you guys
legitimately, we've had that because we've been doing was real life happened. We started it's been 15 years. Real life's happened in between there. It's not like we've ever had gangbuster sales. So we've got so we've got some people that are just like, we go back and we figure up end of the year, and maybe we owe somebody $12, so
yeah, I hear you. And with the past year and a half too, with this COVID, it's made a lot of I don't know, it's changed up my work life a lot. I don't know about you guys. You know, I mean, I was working from home anyways, but now suddenly I have more people that have free time to write stories, and you know, they reach out to you for comics and projects, and you become busier during these times, and then it ebbs and flows. So it's hard to maintain a certain number of sales in such a chaotic time. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I mean, for a lot of us indie comics guys, you know, our not we have not had this experience for whatever reason, but for a lot of indie comics guys, your meat and potatoes of your sales are at the cons.
Yes, and
right?
oh my gosh, I was so excited for conventions, and then COVID hit.
Yep.
And gosh, have you guys have been able to go to conventions? And
well, we actually co-host one
nice
up in my little town, and that and so we were able to do that this year, and we made some sales.
Oh, nice, good.
Our little town's like less than 50,000 in our county. So that's just sort of how that works out for us. But the Front Range, we're near the Colorado Front Range, has a pretty sizable comic scene, and all the Colorado cons were canceled. So so we usually try to hit 2 or 3 down in Colorado in a year. And we, you know, none of that happened this year. So.
I was very fortunate. I'm working with a group called Offshoot Comics, and they make wonderful comics as well. And they had arranged it to where last year during Comic-Con, I would be able to have my comics at the booth at Comic-Con. And that was such a huge deal. Unfortunately, COVID. So that missed out on that golden egg opportunity. But
Yeah.
I hear conventions are the bread and butter, and I really hope that things turn around so we can all get back to that. But until then, we have Patreon, we have coffee, we have a few other avenues that we can go through to try out. Have you guys tried either of those?
We have 3 patrons.
Oh, very nice.
Ideal Comics does. So we and the somewhat frustrating thing is with who's Gene?
Gene? Hello, Gene.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, like I said, with their what was I talking about? I got really confused and totally lost my place.
Oh no. We were talking about conventions and going through Patreon.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we do have Ideal Comics does have 3 patrons. I was going to say that like we've had a Patreon for a few years, and we've had some stuff, but we have the money is just sitting in an account. We haven't done anything at all with it. It's just waiting for us to divvy it up amongst the different partners.
That's the funny thing about Patreon. I didn't realize that you had to go in and manually tell them to put the money into your account. So when I first started it, there was a solid year that I didn't collect any of my funds.
Wow.
I just assumed it was being deposited.
Yeah.
And then, you know, COVID hit, so I was very fortunate to have that to pull off of.
So is what the heck? Okay. So but yeah, that was that's one of those things where we're just I am not a talented business person. I'm a world builder.
I hear that.
That's the thing I do, and I'm as I say on my Minds account, I make comics and say things. Those are the only things I'm really good at. So, well, I think I'm good at making comics.
Your comics look great, and you guys are wonderful. So you say you're doing pretty stinking good.
So, well, let's go ahead here. We're coming up close to 9 o'clock.
All right.
So, what is your Patreon? So we can go ahead and throw that to the folks if they want to help you make the dream happen.
Oh yeah, let me pull that right on up here. Patreon. Here we go. I think I can just share the link. Boop, boop, boop. Share. Copy. Okay, I think I can drop it in the private chat. Here's the link to my Patreon. I share all of my comic pages, all of my works in progress, even other comics that I'm on. We have our own Discord server where we hang out every month. We do a little chat and chill. We catch up on things, and for holidays, I like to go and, as an artist, I like to just do doodles for my Patreon. So this month, I'm going to make everyone like little cute candy heart characters that they can use as profile pictures or whatever they like.
Well, that's just adorable.
For Halloween, we did pumpkins, and those were fun. Patreon, it's a huge part of what I do, and I'm very fortunate to have so many people who are willing to support what I do.
So here's a question for you, right?
Yeah.
So our and all respect to the Ideal Comics patrons out there. No shade thrown to you guys at all. If you check this out, you're part of an elite group of people that believe.
There you go.
I'm gonna be dropping more Colored Forces pages after the stream because we've got like 3 more that are done before it goes up to Webtoons.
Nice.
Anyway, but point being is like Brian, my God, Brian's Patreon game is like the best game in comics. It's insane. Do you feel like he's got some coattails?
Oh, I don't believe on riding coattails, but I do believe on business models and looking at business models and learning.
There's a difference between riding coattails, like clearing off somebody's clout, and there's another with cross promotion and marketing.
Oh, yeah, my goodness.
It's really more what I'm saying. I mean, I'm wondering if people are like, oh, Raven, she does really good colors. Oh, she has her own comic.
Yeah, the Rags team has been wonderful, and that whenever they share some of my pages, they tag me in it. So I've seen a lot of growth thanks to them, and I really do appreciate it. I wouldn't be where I am without the Rags team and the opportunities they provided to me. But yeah, with Patreon, he has this whole business model set up where like the Patreons get comics, and he has so many comics now. He has 7 issues of Rags, and now Sailor Rogowski has 8 comics that he can send out to Patreon. So I'm trying to up my game over here a little bit. My Patreons will also be receiving physical prints and exclusive covers and behind the scene content as these comics come out. So trying to get good.
Brian's just in time for us to talk about how amazing he is and then leave. So
very good.
So speak of the devil.
And he shall appear.
We did. So, but yeah, and of course, Machi is available for sale. Right now, I had the link earlier up in the chat.
I bought it. So what's your excuse?
Oh, bless you guys. I appreciate you.
No, it's super fun. I absolutely. And here's one of the things. Like I mentioned earlier that I had the similarities to the Harry Potter structure, but one of the things that I think that I like more. I'm tempted to say that it excels over Harry Potter on it.
Oh, bless.
But part of the thing is that Harry Potter is married to this idea of the magic world versus the non-magic world.
Yeah,
and it's a cool concept, but by the end of the series, it's unbelievable. Right? Mm-hmm. It just can't be believed anymore. By the time that they actually flush that out to its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Are you saying you have a problem with Harry Potter's logic?
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of its geopolitics.
Bold yet daring.
You know what I really have a problem with in Harry Potter? It's the geopolitical situation. That's just a bridge too far, sir.
Yeah. So, okay, because here's part of the deal, and you can relate to this, Twitless, being a longtime comic fan, right? Mm-hmm. You look at Marvel, you look at DC, these comic worlds where magic is a thing.
Yeah.
So are mutants, and so are aliens, and so are the sea people at the bottom of the oceans, and all that kind of stuff. So all of those elements drastically change the shape of the world you're in.
Yes.
Like, Marvel pretends it's the world outside your window, but it's not, and everyone knows it. Right? DC Comics at least has the decency to admit that there's several million extra people in all their imaginary cities, which we do that too. So, but yeah, so it's one of those things where, but Harry Potter wants to pretend that the Muggle world is the world you're living in, and there's a secret underground world where people don't have to make food, where people don't have to make medicine, where people don't have to wipe their own butts. And it's just becomes so unbelievable. You're just like, okay, I bought this for 4 books, but I'm just not sure I believe it anymore.
I loved that. I think that Rowling is just trolling her audience at this point.
Oh,
when she added in what was it? Wizards before toilets, they just pooped their pants and magicked it away, and I was like, that's not a detail you actually thought of.
Yeah, no.
That's just you're just having a laugh because you're like was she a millionaire or billionaire at this point? I forget.
Oh, she is a wealthy lady who can do whatever she wants. It's crazy.
It's hard. It's super hard to say exactly what's going on with all of that. I couldn't venture a guess.
No, it's too much. It's like keeping up with the Kardashians almost. It's too much drama. It's too much. No, thank you. I'm just here for the story.
But anyway, that's one of the things that I think is the world of Machi is just so engaging, and it's so much fun. And I really am excited.
So when do I get to meet Rags?
O'Brien?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have you on some of these days. He's a real hoot. So hey, Bean from PA has appeared.
She can do whatever she wants, but right, good. That was
yeah.
Shots fired.
Well, and here's the ticket though, is that as I don't necessarily agree with that, in the same way that that's true. You don't get to meet Rags, you get to meet Brian. You can't meet Rags, it's an idea.
It's your Twitter handle, sir. If you want to meet Super Schooled, you could totally do that.
No, you can't. Anyway, but
I will manifest it.
But what I was gonna say about Rowling is a good writer in terms of like making sentences make sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like she has skill with the craft. The problem is that she's so derivative and mildly dishonest about her derivation that it kind of takes away from that, right? So Rowling can write, but what she writes isn't necessarily as profound as her ability to write. It's like Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison's dialogue is decent dialogue, but goodness sakes, don't let him write what he wants.
Or do, and then just, be prepared for the consequences.
I just finished reading All-Star Superman Volume 1 and 2, the trades, and I'm going to be putting a blog up on idealcomics.net in the next couple weeks to break down my thoughts about it. And it's my rough draft's finished. It is not kind.
Oh, no.
What are your thoughts on Grant Morrison, Raven? You will be judged for this.
Oh, Grant Morrison. You might have to give me time to do a quick Google search. Off the top of my head, I'm not familiar.
Grant Morrison is a comic writer. He did The Invisibles. He did Animal Man. He did Doom Patrol in the 80s. And he was the fellow that relaunched Justice League in the 90s to feature Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, the main 7, as he was trying to rebuild Olympus.
So, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he has this whole idea about deity and how it relates to superhero comics.
How do you guys feel about him?
So he wrote this book. I read his book Super Gods. I've read he wrote The Invisibles. And
she's gone.
I think she said, "What do you think about Grant Morrison?" It was like, "Well, let me tell you." She just went, "Nope, I'm not listening to that, comic book nerds."
Computer just went poop.
we were joking around. He said, "Well, she says, what do you think about Grant Morrison?" I'm out of here.
It was the timing of it was perfect. It was like, let me tell you what I think about Grant Morrison, and then it was like, nope.
I'll let these nerds talk for however long till they notice I'm gone.
Oh, no.
I would have had more respect if you'd actually done that.
All right, well, let me try again.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Oh, so anyway, Grant Morrison, Super Gods is where you left off.
Yes.
Yeah, so he wrote Super Gods, which is this whole like thing about superheroes. It's like his personal history of it. He wrote All Star Superman. He wrote The Invisibles. He is often spoken about in the same sentence as Alan Moore. They're both part of the British invasion of superhero comics. He's a Scot. Alan Moore's
English.
from English. Yeah. So they both have some similar tastes. It's like wine. It's like one flavor of a wine as opposed to another. At least if you want to compare it to that. Some people see them as overrated or hacks, depending on who you're talking to. It's the same sort of like a thing, like what your opinion of Watchmen is, basically, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison sometimes writes stories like that. So
they're like that in their Britishness. They're not really like that in their because the thing about Watchmen that I'm going to say that why thank you, Bean. The thing I will say about Watchmen is that Watchmen is, for being a 12-issue maxi series, is concise. I'm saying it's self-contained. It tells you all the stuff you need to know about it. It doesn't tell you all the details. It leaves you to think about it, but it also doesn't leave you like,
well, that sounds
what
wonderful.
the hell just happened?
That sounds great.
And I think there are some structural problems with Watchmen. I think it's widely misunderstood in terms of its position in comic history. But at the same time, it doesn't leave a ton of stuff on the table. I mean, it's not talking down to its audience.
That is
Alan Moore will talk down to his audience.
Oh.
But Watchmen doesn't do that. Oh, and how?
And how
Watchmen itself doesn't do that. That work doesn't do that.
Anyway, so back to Grant Morrison, though. Grant Morrison's big into kind of like, he's that guy that from high school. I'll paint a picture, and then you'll know exactly who he is, right? Okay. So he's the guy who wears a suit, and he calls himself a shaman, and he says, "I healed my cat with a shamanic ritual." So and he hangs out with all the kids who do weed and play and do magic behind the bleachers at school. And he's really into dimensions and stuff.
Oh,
and
no.
So when you talk to him, he thinks he's really smart because he's thought about like all the different ways we could think about time and space, man.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, and
so he's the comic book writer version of that.
Yeah, and he kind of believes he's a deity.
Really?
But he doesn't believe that deity exists per se. So
he believes in himself enough to believe in deities, but not deities the other way around.
Yes, exactly. And both he and and Alan Moore are practicing wizards, and are claimed to be practicing wizards. So I think so. The difference is that Alan Moore, to an extent, I think, is being ironic with it, because when he talks about Glycon, he's like, "I wanted to worship a rock star snake god." He's not being entirely sincere. So there's there's a layer of irony when Alan Moore does it. Grant Morrison 200% believes it.
Good night, almighty.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he also may believe that Superman is God at the same time. But that's a.
I need documentaries on this man now.
To get my take on that, you'll have to check out my website in a couple of weeks, where I'll post a blog about.
I will keep an eye out then. Goodness, you want to see it.
You can also Google oh gosh, I'm not going to repeat some of it on stream because certain people might, with her ladies present.
Yes, right.
But gosh, because his belief in sigils and stuff, because I think was it The Invisibles? There was a comic he really wanted to get to sell better. And he did a sigil ritual, and it included some really unspeakable things.
Good.
And he was like, and it worked. I got sales on my comic because I.
Comic salesmen hate him for this one neat trick.
and he was basically, he legitimately yeah, that's funny.
I'm glad that got you, man. I'm glad that didn't fall flat.
Comic book editors hate him. Learn this one trick. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's terrifying, though, and he actually thought it worked. So that
who knows?
He does. He believes it. He's
and who knows? I don't want to spend the next half an hour discussing the nature of the immaterial world, but I will say, with one big thing, one of the most hilarious pieces about All-Star Superman is that the artist escapes me for a minute. Come on. Another Scotsman, very small, tiny lines, did X-Men.
Tiny lines. Can we get a vowel?
Oh, Frank Quietly draws Lex Luthor to look almost exactly like
Grant
Morrison.
I did a Google search of Grant, and I am seeing illustrations of him that are terrifying.
Yeah, he very much looks like Grant Morrison. So, yes, it is the bald guy. That's true.
Yeah,
wow.
He's the bald one.
I think he shaves his head. I don't think it's alopecia. So I don't know that I have to feel bad about it. So, but yeah. So anyway, he's a fascinating character, and his skill with writing. Back to the comparison with another British writer, Harry Potter gal, Rowling.
Yes.
Both she and Grant Morrison know their way around the English language. They know their way around a sentence. That's great. That doesn't necessarily mean the things that they're writing have what I would consider to be merit. And I mean, and that's a whole debated thing. And some of the first storyline in Justice League that he did back in like 95, well, it would be 95, it would have been 98, I think. Great. It was great. By the third storyline, he'd kind of, spent his dollar sign. I do believe you are correct. Star says, was this the guy thinking he used the occult to get girls to sleep with him?
Oh, goodness.
Yes. I do believe that's true.
That's
so the ritual.
Don't take that to the bank, but I think that's right.
The ritual he did to increase sales included some bodily fluids, is all I'm going to say.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't say which ones. I just said that. But he admitted to this. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy. That's what we're talking about." But he also invented. I don't know if you're familiar with Phantom X. He invented. Okay. Read the origin story of Phantom X on Wikipedia, and that's Grant Morrison.
That's the most Grant Morrison thing
ever.
It's
the most Grant Morrison thing ever. When you read it about Eva, the little globe thing that Phantom X has, and it's like it's biomechanical, but it's also its own dimension. It's the world, and it's like dimensions in space, man. And it's like it's the most Grant Morrison thing that ever Grant Morrison. And then anyway, you know exactly what he is.
It is for this. I mean, if you're into superhero comics, right?
Yeah.
Then there are a couple of Grant Morrison things that are definitely worth reading, at least to look at them. I do think All-Star Superman is one of those, even though I didn't like it. It's got a place in the discussion. I think Grant Morrison's Aztec has got some concepts that are worth considering. And the first story arc in Justice League, and it doesn't hurt to be aware of what he did with Animal Man, although he also ruined him forever. So, people still wrote Animal Man after, but it just after Grant Morrison got a hold of him, it stopped having any of the stuff that I think made Animal Man really fun in the Bronze Age. But
so that's part of his one of the main issues I have with Grant is because of how badly he misunderstands the especially the Golden Age superheroes. Because he's like, what was it? I think it was the first chapter of Super Gods, and he says, "Oh, Superman is our socialist savior." And he totally reads Superman as a proto-communist, and it's couldn't be further from the truth, man.
The early Superman stories are like so anti-war, right? They're like so nativist. It's like scary being written on the forefront of, and like tons of people misunderstand this because they're like Superman was became such a propaganda tool a few years on, and I think that Siegel and Schuster kind of had a change in heart about. Yes, they did make Animal Man a Vertigo character, but Siegel and Schuster I think had a change of heart about the war when it kind of came out what it was. But there was like serious anti-involvement, nativist, isolationist stuff in the first several Superman stories, and people just don't even pay attention to that. Don't even know about that. Don't even acknowledge that, something that can be all American can also be like, let's mind our own business.
The duality of it, isn't it? My
Well,
goodness.
it's a complex issue, and it's worth.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, there's nothing socialist about Superman.
So Raven, what is your opinion on Grant Morrison now that you have
Well,
all of the information necessary?
I am
certainly none of it's planted.
I am
no bias.
thoroughly fascinated. He sounds like a dumpster fire if you put a spotlight on it. It's fascinating. I can't say for better or for worse, just fascinating.
A lot of people do like his stuff though. So like if you have a taste for it, like if you have a taste for that sort of like weirdness, like you'll love him to death. And the people who like Grant really like him because like I said,
actually, if you're interested in finding out if it's something that you want to pursue, but you want to have some free time, the first season of the Doom Patrol comic is almost, of the Doom Patrol TV series. It's almost taken word for word from his comic. So if you're like, well, that was interesting, then it's a low commitment way to decide if you if you're interested in more Grant Morrison.
For me, I'm more so just fascinated him as like a person. This whole his mindset behind everything. I'm gonna dive into that and then I'll check out his works. But my goodness, he just sounds like such a chaotic guy.
Super Gods is the read that you really get, I think, to dive into a chunk of his mindset.
And chaos magic is what he claims. So the idea that he would be chaotic would be fit right into the.
Oh goodness, that is fascinating.
Yeah, and I have to say that there's nothing more like there can't be anything in the world that is more postmodern and more like a product of the modern world of consumption than the idea of chaos magic.
Yeah, no, it doesn't get any crazier than that. My goodness.
And it's something that couldn't have existed 50 years ago.
No,
we were all too poor for someone to come up with an idea like that.
We've reached a level in our society where we can afford to think about chaos magic. Now that's luxury. I love it.
But he also wrote another thing you may or may not be familiar. He wrote Batman R.I.P. If you read that,
I've probably seen it.
And didn't he write Arkham Asylum in like '89 or whatever?
Yes. I should probably know that, but I don't.
I have not read it, but I believe that I'm remembering that factoid correctly. Anyway, it's 12 after the hour.
Oh, I've kept you too long. I'm sorry, gentlemen.
It's fine. It's been fun, and we got to go off on a tirade about all this Grant Morrison that's been in my head this week because I got educated and stuff. So, and I know that here's the part of the thing is I wondered if it would get there because I know Twitless hates Grant Morrison.
Actually, I hate is Warren Ellis.
Well, that's true. Warren Ellis.
Grant Morrison, I at least give him the credit for like he loves comics or loves what he thinks comics are. And I have a hard time hating people if you love it.
Yeah.
Warren Ellis seems to just hate things, and I don't like that.
Yeah, Warren Ellis hates everything that's not Warren Ellis.
Now I gotta Google this person too. Y'all give me some research.
Are you enjoying this mansplaining hour?
Oh, this is my favorite time of the day.
Come back next week. We will fill you with so much more knowledge.
Hey, I'll be here. I'll bring a cup of tea. It'll be great.
And speaking of which, next week we are having oh my goodness, I forgot his last name. Brannon of Brainy Pixel and some guests that he is bringing along that are going to be talking about. They've already soft announced a new book they're doing based on David from the Bible. Exciting. And they are going to be doing, they're going to be talking more about it and other projects that they've got going on, talking about making Bible stories into action comics, which is exciting because, man, I love me some Bible. So there we have it. And griping about Grant Morrison. So that's going to be on next week's show. I'm not sure who all is going to be coming, so I'm not sure if there's going to be room at the table for you, Twitless. I don't know. We'll see.
I'll take someone's spot. I'll hack someone's internet.
You'll get yourself to Missouri and start busting heads. Anyway, I think he's from Missouri. Doesn't matter. It's south of here, but lots of things are. Right. Anyway, so the other thing is 2 weeks. Twitless, Matt Krotz, Nick Mueller, talking about graphic design, semantics, and comics. So that'll be a fun one.
I'm taking down Matt Krotz in a steel cage.
Yeah, that'll be
Here at the Bilo Expo Center. I'm gonna take him down from the top rope.
Someone get this man a metal chair.
Matt Krotz says I can't read. I'm gonna prove to him how hard I don't.
I can't imagine Krotz in the ring. I just he's like the least pro wrestling guy I know.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
Anyway, so that's 2 weeks, and I have somebody for the week after, but I don't remember who it is. So we'll have to see what that is. Anyway, thank you, Raven, for coming on so much.
Do I get to shill? I get to shill.
Oh yeah, that's true. Let's go for it. Why not?
Okay, all right. I get to shill.
I don't have anything else to do. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
That's why I'm here. Hold on. Wait. Where's my app? There it is. Okay. So first off, I show this. So this is my superhero parody webcomic called superschooled.com. I do this, on a weekly, sometimes but bi-weekly basis. And it's like we got 400 strips and so you can, it's all free. So you can, and we even have an archive. You can kind of look at the, on the right.
It's already colored. You don't even have to wait for the colors.
Yeah, it has real live colors on it. So if you like Sky High, it's basically what we ripped off for this. So I've got that coming up. And then the thing I'm really, really excited to share is, as everybody leaves, is this sucker right here. And give me 1 second. And this is my upcoming comic called The Adventures of Omega Girl. It also has colors. It's my first foray into a full-fledged superhero comic, and it's a kind of a classic superhero throwback in a lot of ways. And I'm just
action and everything.
Doing it for the love of the medium. So if you like superheroes and action and stuff, you're going to like this, I hope. Either way, like, so this is the project I self-fund by working extra jobs on the side. So it's a labor of love, and there will be maybe a Kickstarter someday, but the book will be completely finished. And like I said, I've already sent this off to the printers for proof copy, I guess. So I think it's going to be up on Indie Planet, so you'll be able to pick it up for not quite as inexpensive as Raven's comic, which you can pick up for $1, which is a great deal. But I'm hoping that it won't be too expensive for people who need to eat.
This looks gorgeous. I'd buy it for 10. I'd buy it for 15. You just let me know.
I'm hoping to price it around like 4 or 5.
Oh, whoa, that's a bargain. Okay,
but I think the shipping and handling will make it like 10 total.
Yeah.
If when you because it's to ship it or something. But
well, really quick before I hop off of here, guys, I just want to extend a little invitation. I'm working on 3 different comics, and I love doing cameos. If you guys would ever like your characters featured, anything I've got going on, let me know. I'd love to do that.
Yes.
And your Omega Girl, I love her design. I really dig that.
Speaking of, I've never asked you this. You've been.
I say yes to that. By the way, I say yes to that offer. By the way.
Very well.
Just so you know.
We have talked about this in the past, but never about Omega Girl in the past. But I've never thought to ask about the costume design. Did you do that, or did your artist do that
for Omega Girl?
Yeah.
So this is actually. Did anyone ever play City of Heroes, the video game back in the day?
Well, I'm aware of it. I never played.
So I did a bunch of RP and playing on that game, and this design belongs to my co-writer. And I just I loved the character when I came across her in the video game. We told a lot of interesting stories in the City of Heroes kind of universe, and then I loved it so much I actually said one day, I was like, "Can we do a comic? Would you be opposed to that?" and so this is actually the co-writer who designed this. Now, obviously, when it got to the art stage, there was some tweaks and things to be made. But so it's set in a kind of a sci-fi city. So we put holograms everywhere, and we have supervillains all over the place, and lasers and things.
Oh, this
So-
art is phenomenal. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh.
For,
And
for
the
us-
lettering. Get
I-
out of here.
I did the lettering, so I
Good.
take full credit for the disaster the lettering is.
Oh no, that's
Uh,
beautiful. Oh, this is a good example of good lettering. Get out
Aw.
of here.
Disaster not. That's amazing.
That's fun.
Yeah, the weird part is I keep coming up with these one-shot villains, and then my artist makes them look so cool. I go, I have to use you again now.
Yeah.
Uh,
See, we in Ideal, we don't have one shot anything. Everything can be circled back to unless they're dead, and then you're dead for dead.
Oh, rip.
Yeah. Well, we've got one character we killed off in like our third story. But the way he killed, his story isn't over yet. We just haven't gotten back to him yet.
Oh.
So that's if you ever get that, but yeah. So
Very cool.
yeah, that's very cool. And since it's my show, since there's still people watching, this is the cover for Joe Jobs, the first issue, the only issue of this one. It's currently available as an e-comic on our website, although it's being a little buggy, and we are going to be opening a Gumroad for it. And so that's the story on it. It also is available on Global Comics. We've got a whole bunch of comics on Global Comics. Some of them are free. Some of them have their pay by the page system. First 5 pages of Joe Jobs are up there as a teaser. So feel free to go check those out if you want to.
Nice.
And just look up Ideal Comics on Global Comics. And yeah, or you can check out idealcomics.net, and we've got links there to pretty much everything if you look at it. Plus blogs, plus history bits, all kinds of stuff on there. And if you really, want to help us out, someday help us out, check out Patreon. We're there. So, but yeah, that's the story. That's the thing is, I am, like I said, next week we're having going to be a fun show. For those of you guys who follow me on Twitter, it won't do you any good on Monday. I am mothballing my Twitter account. I've decided I'm sick of it. And I'm still going to be there for DMs. If people want to shoot me DMs, I'm going to be checking those a couple times a week. But Ideal Comics Twitter account is out there, and we'll be doing updates for this show. And also for our other projects. So feel free to check us out there, or you can find me on Minds. I'm on Minds, but Twitter is a giant trash fire, and I hate them. So
Very fair.
So there you have it. There you have it. We're going to see if anyone watches the show next week at all. That's going to be real fun. So I'm having a bunch of my friends on. So if nobody watches, it's still going to be fun. So
People will show
fun
up.
for me, even if nobody tunes in.
I'll still try to crash the chat with no survivors.
So
Very nice.
anyway, that's the situation. And we're going to call it a night. It's almost 9:30 here. Which means for Twitless, man, you're about dead.
Yes.
So sorry.
Yeah, he's on the East Coast like a schmuck.
Oh my
Anyway.
God.
It's better than living in Nebraska.
It's not. I've been there. It's not.
Well, guys, thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast chatting with you guys, getting educated about good old Grant Morrison and talking about Patreon and different avenues of business. This has been a blast. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Sweet.
Good to meet you.
Nice
We
to
will. That's fun, and we will definitely catch you guys later. And like I said, let us know as the projects go on. We'll love to have you back, Raven. You're a hilarious guest. So
Well, thank you very much. You're making me blush. I'll have to have some more stuff for you guys next time, but this has been a hoot. I appreciate it. I'd love to be on again. It'd be great.
Wait a second. Hang on. Is this true?
My family's blowing up the chat here.
They're still in the tea. They're telling us what for.
I made the mistake of posting this to Facebook.
Oh, mercy.
I had no idea my family was going to try trolling me today.
Supporting. That's the word you're looking for.
Okay.
I told you this, Reese. I lived in Gordon for a year.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the Gordon. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
don't give the dates.
Oh. Receipts and everything.
Good Lord. Just be posting pictures next.
The address,
Well,
the mailbox, everything.
In fairness, in fairness, you mentioned you'd been to Gordon. You didn't mention you'd lived there for 2 years.
1 year. I lived there. It was a year. I think it was just under, actually. It was like 11 months or something. Oh my gosh. I need to explain to my family what doxing is.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and end the stream.
All right.
We will catch all of you out there in internet land later, and keep loving comics, especially mine. Night.